Hi everybody, I'm Emily, one of the Quilted Cow designers, and today I'm here to show you how to make the Hope and Holly pillow accessory. But first I'd like to thank our sponsors, Husqvarna Viking Machines, Creative Grids, and Wilmington Prints. So let's get started. So this accessory fits perfectly on your back home pillow. It's the back home pillow series that we are doing this year, selling on our Facebook Live. The accessory, of course, detaches so that we're going to have a different accessory every month, and you can attach it and detach it as you want to. You can also find this on our website. Head on over to our website, grab yourself a kit. Now, the accessory kit is sold separate from the pillow kit. So make sure that you head on over to the website. You can also find a link for it up there to get your pillow kit and also the accessory kit. This accessory is called Hope and Holly, and I'm going to show you how to put this together today. So I'm so excited about this. I think it's super cute for February, and our bunnies are awesome. So I'm going to set that right there. Hopefully it'll set nice. Now, the kit includes everything you need to make the accessory. It includes all of the fabric that you need for the front, the back, the finger snaps, and the pattern is included in that. So make sure you head to the website, grab yourself a kit, and then we can get started. The first thing that you're going to do is use the pattern and cut all of the parts and pieces. Now, when you cut apart all your parts and pieces, you're going to want to make sure that you label them so that you can keep them straight. There's a lot of little parts in this, and don't be intimidated by that. It goes together really pretty quickly. But you're going to get everything cut, label. I usually take a friction pin and write a letter on the backside. You'll see some of mine still have the letter on them. And then once I finish this out and I'm ironing it all together, it erases that friction pin. So also, when you're cutting from the kit, you're going to cut your big pieces first. We do try to list the big cuts first on the kit, on the pattern. Unfortunately, though, it depends on what letter we start with on the diagram of these accessories. So these accessories are going to be lettered a little bit different. So if you look through your fabric list, the cut list on your fabrics, just go ahead and grab the biggest pieces first. So if it says you need a 4-inch square, then you're going to cut your 4-inch square first and then get smaller pieces out of the rest of that. That'll help to make sure that you have enough fabric and you don't accidentally miscut and end up with not enough fabric for it. So what we're going to do is we're going to start on the pattern. It's going to tell you to gather up certain squares, and you're going to grab those specified squares that it says on the pattern, and you're going to draw a diagonal line corner to corner on each of those squares. So what I've done here is on this particular square, I drew a diagonal line corner to corner. You just take your ruler, you line it up, grab your pen. I use a friction pen, pencil, whatever you want to use, draw that line. And these are going to be positioned because the pattern says these squares will be placed right sides together on the fabric that's specified. Once it's placed, you will stitch on the line, trim a 1/4 inch from the line, and then press it open. So keep that in mind as we're going along. It's just going to be basically a lot of snowballing corners, a couple of half square triangles, really pretty simple to put together. But if you're not familiar with this process, then I'm going to walk you through a few of them. So I'm going to start with the bunny ears. Now, one of the reasons why I saved this bunny ears for you is because I wanted to make sure that I was able to show you how this is going to overlap. For the most part, most of the pieces are not going to overlap. You're not going to have to worry about that. So you can just stitch them all on, trim them off the 1/4 inch, press them open, and have that piece ready to go. However, this one is important because you're going to put this piece on top of where the other one was stitched, and you're going to stitch directly on that line. You're going to trim a 1/4 inch away and then press this open. So I'm going to do a few of these, but let me get this one done. So we're going to take this over to the machine and start sewing. All right, so I have that sewn on. So the next step is to go ahead and trim that a 1/4 inch away. Make sure that you are not trimming on the inside of the fabric piece. Make sure that you're trimming on the outside, so that you have a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then I'm going to take my iron and I'm going to press that open. In the meantime, I'll show you, I've already done the bunny's face. Now, the bunny face and the bunny ears, and actually the bunnies are going to be mirror images of each other, so you need to pay attention whenever you're doing this, that you're putting the right square in the correct position on those rectangles. So since I've already done that one, I'm gonna go ahead and trim off my 1/4 inch on all of these, and then we'll press them open. All right, so sometimes I like to turn them over and press them from the back side. That helps everything to stay open the way I want it to. And now I've got the bunny ears done, and then the bunny head. Make sure everything faces in the correct direction. And you'll notice I've already got a few of these other pieces finished. The other one that I haven't done yet is the tail. So that one is once again just sew on the diagonal line, and then we'll trim it a 1/4 inch and do that. All right, so for those of you that are new to this process, this is what's called snowballing corners. It basically takes a square or a rectangle and it cuts a little triangle off with the main fabric and adds a little bit of the background or whatever other fabric that you need to add to it. And it kind of almost gives it a bit of a curved look to it, so that whenever you're all finished, it kind of curves the square or the rectangle out so it's not perfectly square corners. So once I've finished snowballing all those corners, I'm going to set those aside. And I want to show you real quick the half square triangles that we did. Once again, we still drew the diagonal line. You sew on the line, and I'm just going to trim a 1/4 inch away from that and press it open. And that's just the simple half square triangles that we're doing on this project. All right, so there's another couple of little steps that I want to show you. First, I want you to go ahead and assemble your stem unit. And that stem unit is going to be basically the stem and the 2 leaf pieces that are on the sides. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add our O squares to the bottom. Now, it doesn't really matter if you add it to the right or to the left first. It's not going to be a problem, but you're going to add it. You're going to lay that right sides together in that bottom right corner, and then you're going to sew on the line. You're going to trim a 1/4 inch off, so that's going to trim off some of that piecing that you did. That's okay. We want it to be trimmed off. Press it open, and then we're going to do the other side with the other O square so that it makes a nice little triangle shape at the bottom where that stem gets planted. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so as you'll see here at the bottom of the stem unit, then that has overlapped, and that's what we want it to do. We want it to go ahead and overlap, so make sure that it does that. And then we're going to do, I told you before that this was snowballing the corners whenever you add the square, sew on the line, trim it and everything. So this is snowballing the corners, and what I've done is I've started with my rectangle here, and I've added my D squares here, and I'm going to trim those, press them open, and then we're going to double snowball these corners. All right, so once we've snowballed this bottom one, now we're going to add these squares on, and we're going to double snowball. So this is going to go in that white triangle basically that you just put on there. It's going to go in that bottom corner, and you're just going to stitch that on there. Same thing on the other one. This is just going to go directly on there, and you're going to stitch corner to corner on the diagonal line. So let me go do that for you. I'll show you, I'll trim it and then start pressing it back, and I'll show you whenever I get that done. So once I've got this pressed open, now you can see where there's actually 2 squares that have been added to each of the same corners on that rectangle. So make sure that you do that. Now, once you have all of your pieces snowballed, once you have everything basically kind of put together like this, then you can start arranging and do the fabric layout and the arrangement that it needs to be. Remember that your bunnies are mirror images of each other, so you want to make sure that you've got the correct head and the correct ears, you've got the tails in the correct position, their little feet in the correct position. Just make sure that you've got all of that done, and then you're just going to start stitching these together in the order that's pretty logical. So we're going to add a couple of these pieces here, we're going to add the ears to the background, and then start adding together as they fit together. The other thing is make sure you use a pretty good consistent and true 1/4 inch seam allowance to make sure that everything is fitting correctly. If your seam allowance is a little bit big, everything's going to be a little bit small and it may not fit right. If your seam allowance is a little bit small, then everything's going to be a little bit oversized, and then these pieces that are cut to the exact size that you need are going to end up being too small. So if you run into an issue where your pieces are maybe slightly too small or slightly too large, just even them up the best you can, and that'll help to square everything out, and then you'll have the right size finished piece. So I'm going to go ahead and start sewing these together, and then once I get everything assembled, then we'll come back and I'll show you what it all looks like assembled. All right, so as you can see, I've sort of started putting these together. I got a little bit of the background on top of the bunny ears. I got part of the body attached to the tail, which needs to turn around this direction, making sure that I've got everything in the right direction. And now I'm going to attach the tail to the body. I'm going to attach the background to the bunny ears and the head. And then just kind of keep adding on from there. And then I'm also going to attach the tulip. I'm going to put the tulip together, the background with the tulip top, the middle, the bottom, and then the stem unit. So I'll be back after I get all those connected. While I'm doing this though, you might notice that I am chain piecing. So I'm going to take the pieces that I need and I'm going to put them through my machine, come back and do the next ones and keep going with the next ones. That way I'm not going back and forth, cutting, pressing back and forth all the time. I can do quite a bit of sewing and then quite a bit of pressing. So we'll see you back whenever I get all of these sections together. All right, so as I get these last few sections pressed, and then I'm going to move on to the next area where I'm going to sew everything basically all together. I do want to tell you I am pressing to the path of least resistance. So if you've got a flat piece here, not any piecing, no seams on this side, press to that side. Whatever is working for you. There are a couple of areas where I have pressed the seams open rather than just back, and that's where there's a lot of seams that gather all in one area. That happened for me for the top of the tulip. I went ahead and pressed all those seams open. That worked best for me. That's what I found. You press however you feel that you need to press. Like I said, the path of least resistance, whichever way the seams are wanting to go ahead and let them go there. All right, so as you can see, I've got the tulip segment together. This little background piece is going to attach here. I'm going to go ahead and put the top of the background on top of the bunny's head, the body together, and get the background around that, and then get everything attached. And once I've got everything attached, we'll go ahead. I'll show you how to finish out this accessory. All right, so now I have my bunnies, my Hope and Holly bunnies with the tulip in between put together. I will admit to you, because my tulip had a lot of piecing, some of my 1/4 inch seam allowances weren't quite perfect, so it made this a little bit longer. I went ahead and just trimmed that off. I made sure everything lined up top and trimmed off that bottom. That's okay, that's not a problem. So once we get this done, we do want to make sure that we are trimmed to the size that we need for the accessory. So 6.5 by 15.5 is the size that we need. I do have my lightweight interfacing that I'm going to fuse to the back side of this. What that's going to do is it's going to give some stability, keep everything from raveling, give us a nice good block. So because I know I cut this to size, I'm not really worried about my accessory block unless there's lots of extra all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead and press this. I'm going to fuse this. When we fuse this, if you haven't worked with fusible before, bumpy side goes to the back side of your fabrics. Make sure that the glue side is the bumpy side. That goes to the back side of your fabrics. Don't have the glue side up, and don't put it on the front, on the pretty side of your fabrics. So make sure that that bumpy side is down. And I'm going to pull this a little closer to me. And I'm going to give this a really good press. You can see from my block that it pretty well fits. There's a little bit that's a little bit lacking here. I'm not worried about that. Whenever I sew the backing on this, that's going to take care of that. So it's more important to just make sure that you are really pretty close and you don't have too much on the outside of that. Give it a good press, let it heat up quite a bit. Once that's done, once it's good and fused, then we will sew the backing on our block. All right, so I've got that fused now. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay right sides together my backing fabric to the block. I'm going to grab some Wonder Clips just to clip it together. Give me a little bit of, make sure things don't shift while I'm sewing. So just put a few clips in here. And then I'm going to sew 1/4 inch all the way around, but I'm going to leave a good 3, maybe 4 inches open so that you can turn it right side out whenever it comes time. So a couple more clips. Go ahead and back stitch at the beginning and end of your opening, and then I'll get this sewn together and turned right side out, and we'll get it pressed. All right, so as you can see, I went ahead and I top stitched the backing on, turned it right side out, poked my corners out, and then top stitched around the top just to sew that opening closed. And now it's time to add the finger snaps. Now the finger snaps are wonderful. They're easy to install. Whenever we do this, you're going to get in your kit 2 sets of snaps, and each set is going to include 2 caps and a socket and a stud. So we've got the 2 caps, and then we've got a socket, and we've got a stud. So we want to make sure that we've got 2 sets of those. And when we install these, we're going to double check on our pillow, make sure what we have installed on the top is the socket. So then the stud is going to get installed in the top of our accessory block. So make sure whenever you do this accessory block, you've got the sockets on top of the pillow, put the studs on top of the accessory block. What I'm going to do is I'm going to measure 1/2 inch in from the top and 1/2 inch from the side. And I'm just going to put a little dot there at the corner where my ruler is. And then I like to use this precision seam ripper. It's always worked really well for me whenever I'm making my hole for the snaps. I'm just going to poke a hole all the way through all the fabric and everything. Now I don't have that down on a cutting mat whenever I do that. And then I'm just going to poke a hole that is big enough for the stud on that cap to go through. So we're going to put the stud all the way through. Use your fingers to kind of make sure that the fabric gets out of the way. Once you get all the fabric out of the way, then we are going to put the stud in the top. And there is the stud. And sometimes whenever you do this, you just set it down on the table and then give it a good snap and then just snap that together. So do that to all 4 corners. Make sure, like I said, double check on your pillow, make sure everything is good. And that is how we do the Hope and Holly accessory block for the Back Home Pillow series. So head to our website, grab yourself a kit. For if you don't have the kit for the pillow does include everything that you need to make the pillow, plus the finger snaps and the pattern for that. The pattern for the pillow is sold separately, but it's in the kit. And then also the accessory includes everything that you need to make the accessory block, including the snaps and the pattern. Check that out. Make sure that you like and subscribe to our videos, and thank you so much for watching.
Okay, you wicked cool quilters, good job. You made it to the end. We would like to thank our sponsors, Husqvarna Viking Sewing Machines, Creative Grids, rulers, rotary cutters, and mats, and Wilmington Prints for the beautiful fabrics. Thanks for watching.